It's personal. It's personal. Deion Sanders' son told him, hey, Dad, it's personal. I think everybody thinks right now this is just about football. This is about Deion Sanders being one of the greatest football players, greatest cornerbacks that ever lived. But I think that we're missing the fact that Deion Sanders' son said in the interview, it's personal. And Deion Sanders, he regurgitated what his son said, and he said, it's personal. Nobody asked, why is it personal? Is it just because Deion Sanders is this great football player, great baseball player? I think the conversation is deeper than that. And what I'm gonna do is, I seen this interview, well, actually this post by Stephen A. Smith, and he was breaking down what makes Deion Sanders so special. And I thought he was spot on, but I feel like he missed a few things. But I'm gonna play this real quick, and I want you guys to hear what what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Deion Sanders.
But you know something? We were all there for Prime. We weren't there for Colorado. We weren't even there for Shedeur Sanders. We were there for prime time. Deion Sanders, the greatest cornerback in the history of the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you something. It meant the world to him, but it meant the world to all of us to be there for him. And you know, if you're wondering how it hits us and how we reach these conclusions, how we come to these conclusions of feeling the way that we feel about certain people, let's just compartmentalize and talk about primetime Deion Sanders for a second.
Okay.
We're talking about a man that starred at Florida State, but when interviewed a few weeks ago and they were talking about his alma mater, he said, that ain't my alma mater. I come from an HBCU. We know he coached at Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
We know HBCUs is what ultimately assisted him in getting his degree. We know coaches at Alabama State and others all played a role in assisting him ultimately capturing, getting that degree and being able to coach football. HBCUs opened doors for primetime Deion Sanders, and I've been on the record saying he's given more than his share back in droves actually to HBCUs. You can't measure what he's done for HBCUs. But with all of that being said,
let's be honest. Hold on. Let me stop this real quick. Let's be honest. The talk about him leaving Jackson is very interesting to me, and I'm gonna tell you why. What's interesting is when you have a NFL superstar who comes back to say, I'm giving back, not just money, but also time, experience. But furthermore, it's exciting at the fact that, hey, you have a guy that don't need to do this. Now, it's one thing they say it's one thing to teach people to know how to fish, but it's another thing to teach people how to fish. So you're giving these guys a chance to look at it, to work with a superstar, which is very exciting, which is very like, man, this is a great opportunity to be around this elite player that can get me to the next level. And I think that's the issue that we have with a lot of superstars, NFL, NBA. They fail to come back. They'll come back here and there, right? Kiss some babies, shake some hands, sign some, autographs or whatever. But very rarely do they come back to coach. And I think that Primetime did a great job of saying, you know what, I want to go coach my sons. Now, there is a deeper conversation here, and I'm going to get into that conversation, but I want Stephen A. to finish talking about, kind of outlining what makes Deion Sanders so special. He said a lot of great stuff, but I think that he missed something that I don't think a lot of us, if it's not pointed out, I don't think we'll get. So let's get back to it.
Even though that's clearly a reason to root for him, let's go a step further here. I want you to look at this sound. Look and listen to this footage. Ryan Clark, my brother, my colleague on ESPN's First Take. He's also hosting the new host of Inside the NFL. He's on Monday Night NFL Countdown. He's obviously a contributor to SportsCenter, Get Up.
Salute.
On ESPN, a phenomenal football analyst who also has his own podcast, a very popular podcast called The Pivot, with his boys, Channing Tatum and Fred Taylor. Listen to this.
It's just that Deion does it his way. It's not just that it's different. It's that for so long,
Salute.
if we
I appreciate
wanted
that. I miss you too.
we had to be like them. Being uniquely and authentically African American, they don't want that. And it's not that they don't want it because they believe it's bad. They just don't know enough about it. You can't come up here dancing like Lou Young and win, right? You're not going to tell us what you're going to do and then do it. That's not what coaches do, but it's what Prime does. He ain't got to prove nothing to nobody. You're actually hiring Prime, right? That's not how it normally
We about to get into this conversation. Hold on.
From a GA and a quality control guy, he can't go act like Prime and coach, right? Because they're going to be ready to get him out of there.
Ryan Clark's absolutely right, except for one thing in my estimation, when he said that they don't understand. Folks who don't understand, that's not the problem with folks like Deion Sanders and other African Americans who deserve these opportunities, is that they don't want to understand because they're comfortable communicating.
Salute. I got some things to say about this.
Who share their authenticity, their ethnicity, their culture, et cetera, et cetera. We know what time it is. And prime time is opening doors and it's making people very, very uncomfortable. By the way,
Okay, let's get straight into this thing, man. Prime time is making people uncomfortable. But it's not just about football. I don't think it's personal. I don't think when his son said, "Hey, Dad, it's personal," and he talked to his father, and his father regurgitated that statement inside that press release. He said, "Hey, it's personal." Let me tell you why it's personal. It's personal because now you have a black man showcasing fatherhood. That's what the conversation is about. It's not primetime, the football player. It's primetime, the father. That's what this whole situation is about. That's what a lot of people, they're not understanding. Like they play football, but they are family. You're not going to talk about our legacy. You're not going to downgrade my father. You're not going to downgrade my brother. You're not going to downgrade my family. And I think for a lot of men who've never had that father figure or never had that structure to be seen as father and son, I think Primetime, Coach Prime, he represents that. I want y'all to come in here and listen to what I got to say. He represents that. This is a great opportunity to see a man who oh yeah, he showboats a little bit, was a great football player, a great baseball player. But how many people are going to say he was a great father? That's really the narrative that we're spinning here. We talk about, you know, his winning records, him doing X, Y, and Z. There's some people that came out and said, "Oh, he's not a real coach." Well, he seems to be doing okay. Right? Oh, he left the HBCUs. How dare he do this and how dare? But here's the thing. What I see is I see a man on a mission. I see a man that understands the assignment. I see a man that says, you know what? Not only was I around for my children, but I groomed my children for this level of play, this level of football, this level of sportsmanship. And I think that we as black people, we look at that and sometimes we take things for granted because a lot of times we don't have those males in position to say, hey, you know, I don't need a pat on the back, but it's great to hear the standing ovation. So right now when people are cheering like, hey, in Colorado, we're winning. But I believe that fathers are winning. I believe that black men are winning. I believe that this example that is being set, I think it sends a wide range of, damn, that looks good. That sounds good. To say this man is not only coaching one of his sons, he's coaching two of his sons. That this man was not only great in NFL and the baseball, he was also great at being a father. Now, here's the thing. Have we seen some things that Prime has done that's a little wishy-washy? Well, we all been there. Does he have ex-wives coming to the football games? Yes. But I think that when everybody knows the assignment, and I think that this also outlines a perfect example of mothers and fathers who co-parent that understand the assignment. Can you imagine if Deion Sanders was not a part of his son's lives? The practices, the in the backyard playing football, the strategist, the hey, before you go outside and, you know, make sure you get that homework done. Can you imagine him not being allowed to be a parent to his sons, him not being able to be a father to his sons, how his sons would have turned out. This is a prime example of fathers being in a household, and this is why it's so important that they be connected to the household. Deion Sanders is definitely a prime example of this is what it looks like when it works. This is what it looks like when people decide that our legacy is more important than our ego. I listened to his son tell the press, like, hey, look, don't disrespect my dad. You know, don't disrespect my dad, and was passionately saying those things or whatever. And you got to understand that there is a certain genuineness and respect when you have a young man that says, hey, that's my father. There's a certain level of pride. There's a certain level of attitude that exists, like, hey, this is us. We play football, but we are family. And that's, to me, that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing thing to look back. I think that this is just bigger than, football stats. This is bigger than just game day, because every time you go out there, you represent not only the team, but you represent a family. You represent a situation where people understand that, you know what, I'm doing this for, because we say it's American football, right? I'm doing this for America. I'm doing this for young men who don't have father figures. I'm doing this for people that don't have role models and leaders to look up to. So when I step out there and I hear the Stephen A. Smiths and the Wu-Tang Clan and these guys are going. Of course, they knew Prime Time back in the day. Probably used to party with them or whatever. But you got to understand that sometimes you become a role model and a leader, and that's not what you set out to be. That sometimes it becomes bigger than what it is that you say that, you wanted to do in the first place. And what he said, his son was saying some stuff on the field he shouldn't be saying or whatever case may be. And the guy said, hey, son, he said, hey, coach. And he said, hey, I'm a father first. I'm a father first. It is very important to realize, when we have special moments, because I think a lot of times we glance by it. A lot of people want us to believe that, hey, this is all about, just football. And I think for a lot of Black Americans, African Americans, I think it's bigger than that. It's great. Hey, these guys can throw and they can run and they can do all of these athletic things or whatever. And they're following in the footsteps in their own way of their father. But I think that there is a legacy being pushed out there. And a narrative being pushed that, Black men are fathers. And this is what it looks like when it's uninterrupted. This is what it looks like when it's nurtured. This is what it's looked like when it's blossomed into the end result. I say this. You have African American sons that have not been to jail, don't have a bunch of baby mamas, pursuing a college degree, not in gangs, not in trouble with the law. Why we ain't talking about it? Why is it just about them running a football or throwing a football? It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that, because what it does, it goes against the status quo. It goes against the narrative of you're only this and you're only that. Now you're saying, well, the dad becomes an example and the sons become an example too. Especially for all of those inspiring kids, those young men who, again, you ever heard of people saying they live vicariously through people? Like, I think that's what we do, especially with celebrities or whatever case may be. Like a lot of the young women are living vicariously through Sha'Carri Richardson. A lot of the young men are living vicariously through Deion Sanders or his sons. This is an example of that. People are living vicariously through you. Your family is my family. Mi casa, su casa. And I think that example is really blossoming on the attention of a lot of men. A lot of men have said, hey, man, I wish I could be around my sons like that. I wish I could, you know what I'm saying? And what it does, it triggers something. Hey, let me start working with my son more. Let me call my son up, or let me do whatever I need to do to make sure that my son, we can promote our legacy as well. I think people don't realize how big this situation is. Salute, Uncle L. Gary, I see you. Let's get to some of these comments. They aren't even going to talk about that. They don't even care about that. And you're exactly right. That's why this conversation is so important. Let's look at the big picture. Let's have a tough conversation. It's not just about football for some people. It's not. It's deeper than that. There's a underlying meaning. There's a silver lining. You know, they said, hey, wherever he goes, he's bringing celebrities to these other schools, but he never brought them to Jackson State, et cetera, et cetera. Let me tell you something. What Deion Sanders has done for the HBCU is phenomenal. Because now you have more people from the NFL and other places saying, hey, I want to come down and coach. I want to bring this star power to your school. I want to bring this experience to your school. So what he has done is laid the blueprint. The issue is that we take things for granted. We think people are always going to be around, so we take them for granted. We take their time, their resources, their abilities. We take their experience. We take all that for granted. And then as soon as it's swept away, as soon as it leaves, it blossoms and goes elsewhere. Now it's boo-hoo, poor us. He picked Colorado State, went there, and he is blossoming with his children, with a winning record. So some people will say, hey, this is about shutting down the naysayers. No, I think this is about my family living in their legacy, understanding the value of this moment. And I think that it's a different conversation coming from a man versus coming from a woman. Not that there's not a lot of great mothers out there who've had single kids and they grew up to be great or whatever. But this is a man that has had a conversation. And you can just tell. You can tell how they move around. Like I've seen a couple press conferences. I've seen some things on, I guess, Instagram or whatever. And you can see the level of respect that they have for their father. The level of understanding, like it's a lot of shucking and jiving and joking, but you can see that there's a level of realness. And that comes from your father being around. That comes from your father being able to father. And I just think that if Deion Sanders was not in those guys' life, would they have been great football players? Possibly. But again, it's the coaching aspect, it's the father aspect of it that's exciting. That says, you know what, I'm glad that you were not only there, but you were able to teach them how to become better people, better leaders, better role models. So it's exciting. It's about providing his methods can be positive. Definitely. I definitely understand that, Gary. I definitely get that. I mean, how many people feel like the conversation about Deion Sanders, I think we glaze over, because a lot of the focus goes on to what he's done in the past, right? Hey, he was a great cornerback. Hey, he's a great baseball player. But I think that, and it's more than just that's my son on the field. It's blood, sweat, and tears before you even get to that point. To teach a person how to catch, run, to know what to look for, read a defense. It's bigger than just we're playing football. No, we're teaching morals, we're teaching standards, we're teaching values, we're teaching discipline. Because if I teach you this discipline, the jail system doesn't have to teach you this discipline. The gangs don't have to teach you this discipline. Someone else stepping in don't have to teach you this discipline. And I think that knowing and understanding the value of that and saying, that's something that should be applauded. That's something that should be talked about. That's something that should be easily looked at and saying, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Great. Hey, I'm glad you win and all that other stuff, man. But I see the bigger picture. Because when you sit there and you say, hey, look, I'm a great football coach. I got some great players. But first and foremost, I'm a father. Well, what you're not understanding is the value in that comment. You're not valuing saying that it's personal. It's personal because we believe in each other. We believe in our family ties. We believe in our bond. I saw the I guess his ex-wife there at the game or whatever, of course, rooting for the kids and all that stuff or whatever. And this is when I go back to understanding your position in your children's lives. Understanding that it's going to take the mom to do the mom stuff, the dad to do the dad stuff, and the overall parenting to happen. Just imagine, and I'm sure at some point in time they wasn't always on the same accord, but you get to an end state where everybody has lived up to their responsibilities. You know, because if I'm steadily trying to pull you away or distract you from your responsibilities or making it difficult, and I'm just so glad to be able to see an example of men that have a father that are excited about living a life. Gary says it's really sad that there's people in the back who is waiting for the downfall hiccups in the armor to talk about. Yeah, so I've seen some people talk about Deion Sanders, again, referencing him not being a real coach, being too cocky. But you got to understand, you know, his personality was always big and bold. So to lose who he is as primetime, to now be, you know, subtle and quiet, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's always going to be him. I think that's a part of his showmanship. I think that his sons, to a certain extent, they also exude that same showmanship. But it's just great to see family. It's great to see an idea come to life. It's great to see people applauding for what they think is just football, but really it's deeper than that. And I think that a lot of these celebrities, to be honest, I think they can see that. You know, they've had these conversations with Coach Prime. They've been around Coach Prime in the party atmosphere or whatever. And he's probably said to them, hey, my son's going to be great one day. You know, bragging on his kids and uplifting his kids. And just to see, because come on, let's be real. It's a father's dream to see his son graduate from college, to see his son play football or basketball or get married or have his first kid. It's a father's dream to see that. So you got to understand that this man he's living out his dream to see his kids on the same team playing at such a high level and winning under his supervision, under his tutelage, under his guidance. So it's an important, not only it's important for America and American football, but it's also important for Black fathers. It's a beacon saying this is what it looks like when you're there. This is what it sounds like when you're there. This is why it's so critical for you to be around or connected to the household. It's a beacon for that, because you got to think about your role models nowadays. What, rappers? There's a different conversation. There's an energy behind these wins. There is a focus behind these wins. A lot of times we highlight the sport aspect of it, but there's a deeper conversation behind the sports that glue everything together. And I do believe that there's a family bond. I do believe that there is a legacy that a lot of people don't talk about. Because again, I guess there's an American conversation and there's an African American conversation. Let me say that again. There's an American conversation and there's an African American conversation when it comes to Deion Sanders. And a lot of times the American conversation, again, it's like, okay, well, you know, Deion was great at sports. But for African Americans looking at it, it's like this represents Deion being great at being a father. So you're praising him for something that he feels as secondary to his main responsibility. And just as a Black man in America, as a veteran, you know, as a father, you look at those things and you say, man, I can applaud that, because that right there signifies, hey, you know, the importance of being a father, the importance of teaching the next generation, because there's a lot of young guys out there that don't believe that they have role models. They don't believe that there are any men out there that are willing to step up and be leaders, providers, protectors. They don't believe that. So when you see these things right here, I think it's important that we have the conversations and push the narrative of saying, you know, this is what leadership looks like. This is what fatherhood looks like. This is what standing in the front and standing out front and saying, hey, listen, this is the game plan. And there's not going to be a lot of people excited about it. There's not going to be a lot of people that's focused on that, because it's like, oh, well, that's Coach Prime and he's just flashy. He's just this, he's just that. But the thing about it is, I noticed that before people give you your flowers, they'll give you words to discourage you. They'll debunk your achievements to make themselves feel better, because a lot of them don't have relationships with their sons. A lot of them don't have the tenacity to be like, hey, not only is it important for me to be a winner on the field, but it's equally important for us, our family, me and my sons, to win off the field, because there's a bigger conversation. Even though we're playing this game, we're playing a bigger game called life. And I'm sure a lot of people at Colorado, you know, it's not, you know, HBCU, but I'm sure a lot of people at Colorado, you know, look at these guys like, you know, hey, you know, star power, right? But there are a lot of people that's following this story and saying, man, I'm rooting for you guys, because you guys promote an example of what family looks like, or what bonding looks like. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that don't have the father figure like that says, hey, look, you know, hey, you know, that's a perfect example for me. That's a perfect example to say, hey, look, if I listen, I got so much stuff I want to say. Look, it's a perfect example of, if I listen to my father, where I could be. If I work with my father, where I could be. If I listen to my parents, where I could be. It's a perfect example of that. It's a perfect example of, this could be me and my family if we work together. If you're a mother out there, this should be a perfect example of saying, hey, let me make sure dad is in the picture. Let me make sure I pull him in the picture and make sure that he gets out there and throws the football and teaches our child life lessons. I think sometimes we get kind of caught up in our own ego, and we trip up in our own self and say, you know what, I can teach my child all the life lessons they need. But you're only one person. You're only one person. I think we take a lot of responsibility on ourselves individually, especially when we're raising kids, and we say, you know what, I can do all this for my child. And then some people will say, well, it takes a village. The fact of the matter is, this is just an important example of possibilities. This is an important example of leadership, and it's exciting to watch. To be honest with you, it's even more exciting than the game, because I realize that what's gluing this thing together. I realize when you talk to your son on the sidelines, that conversation is between y'all in front of thousands of people, but it's an intimate conversation. It's a family conversation. It's a father-son conversation. And to be honest with you, that conversation in the community is sometimes difficult for fathers and sons, because a lot of people say fathers don't want to be fathers. Fathers are deadbeats. Fathers are this and fathers are that. So you don't get the praise as a father. You don't get the standing ovations as a father. So again, when you see people in Colorado saying, woo, Deion, woo, yeah, that's a father being uplifted. You got to understand, as a father, how big that is for a father, especially a black father. It's like, okay, they recognizing, but are they though? Salute, but are they though? You get an opportunity to see men that appreciate college football, men that have escalated to the National Football League, and have played at the top. And you get to see all that come together under the umbrella of we are family. That is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful picture to paint. That is a beautiful sight to see. And it's a beautiful, beautiful narrative to run with. And I think that there's a lot of people who kind of sit back and they do have an understanding of this is something special. This is something that should be applauded. This is something that should be appreciated. And this is something that should be talked about. But unfortunately, I think that star power prime is the topic because a lot of people are nervous. Because what'll happen is it'll put pressure on those football coaches. It'll put pressure on those football coaches. Says we building over here. Says Deion Sanders is making a change in college football, making a way for black coaches, and they can make a different. It's why the NFL need more black head coaches. You know what's interesting? That's a great point. What's interesting is that he is making it harder for a regular coach that may or may not have played football, right? A lineman that has come back to play, coach, or somebody's brother that knows somebody that works at the school. Okay, I'm a coach. He's made it difficult because now he's saying not only do you have to bring experience, you have to bring showmanship. You have to walk it like you talk it. You have to have that sparkle, that twinkle in your eye. You have to know and have done. It's very. Can you imagine going to a car dealership, whatever car you like, right? And somebody telling you, "Oh my God, this is a car you want to own. This is what you want to own," but they can't own it. They've never been there. They've never driven it. They never taken it out on a countryside drive. But they're trying to explain to you how great it is. And that's where you have a lot of head coaches. They're trying to explain to you, if you listen to me, you'll make it. But you've never been there. You know what I'm saying? You could tell me about it. You know somebody who went there, but you never been there. It's just a different energy. So when you see somebody who's been there you got to understand, Coach Prime has the star power of now. But he was a star then. Let's keep it real. You know how a lot of people they kind of fall off? Well, he's kind of propelled throughout the decades. He's propelled. You went from football, basketball, being a rapper, making appearances on shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to now being a successful college football coach. But number one, being a father. That's something to be excited about. I appreciate you hitting that like button. Thank you very much. Exactly. I would agree with that. They don't like them being, and see, I'm reading the chat. I'm reading the chat. But you're right. They don't want him to be in charge because, again, he goes against the status quo. He's not your average quarterback. I'm sorry, your average coach. He's just not your average coach. He brings a different energy. And here's the thing. Based on our generation now, especially since it's so social media driven, how many people you think in Alabama, Florida State want to come play for Coach Prime? Because he has that star power. You think if LeBron James goes down to the college level and Steph Curry goes down to the college level, you think those kids ain't gonna want to go there? Any school would be lucky to have a Coach Prime or someone that has equal star power like Coach Prime. And I think that it's amazing that he can do it, but he's also showing his sons the value of legacy, the value of sons. If you follow my guidance, if you follow my guidance, this is where you can go. And the great thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, is that they have no reason not to believe him. Do you think the mothers are like, don't listen to your dad, he a deadbeat? Hit the like button. I'm doing something with this. Family, family friendly, what's going on? I see y'all in the building. Y'all know over here it's about the conversation. It's about the conversation. But salute to y'all, salute to everybody in the building or whatever. But today we're talking about primetime Deion Sanders and his sons and him being, it's more about family. It's great that he's achieving these things with his sons, but I think it's just magnificent that we get to witness, this monumental moment. And I think a lot of times we skip past what we should be seeing because we're kind of blinded with everything else. You play football, great. Woo! Yeah. But you are a father setting examples for African American men. You are a father setting examples for men that are not in the lives of their children. So that right there in itself is a bigger message than just winning football games. I appreciate that, Rider Prophet. I like to consider it to be genuine. Says T.O. need to get started. Hey, Terrell Owens definitely probably needs to get started. I think he's an influence. I'm going to tell you right now, I believe that Deion Sanders is influencing a lot of people to now look toward not just colleges and black colleges, but just in general. Hey, let me go back and share my expertise. Let me go back and get into the swing of things. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys retire from playing the sport they were in, and they go and commentate. So now they get paid to kind of do what I'm doing, right? But on a bigger scale, of course. But they don't want to be down in the trenches with the kids. They don't want to be, hey, let me draw plays and go talk to this parent and do this or whatever. So again, Deion Sanders is showcasing not only do I have the experience and the know-how, I have the patience to go back because there's not a lot of people reaching back. That's what this is all about. You got to think about all my celebrity friends are coming. All my past teammates are coming, but how many of them reach back? So hopefully when you see me in action, because sometimes it takes people to see you in action. It takes them to see you in action, man. Hey, man, woo. Prime, you got me hyped, man. You got me hyped. I'm about to go find me a college, or I'm going to come to the college with you. You know I can teach defense. You know I can teach offense. It's a different conversation, and I believe in the African-American community about Deion Sanders. I just believe it's a different conversation. But the biggest conversation should be had is that he's doing this. He's promoting this legacy with his sons. Can you imagine how big that is? How huge that is? That's monumental. Because now you say, I didn't just watch my dad be great. I was a part of his legacy. I was a part of the next chapter. Cole says the man walked by faith. They don't like it. You come there with the know-how, your own funds. Like it's like you can't throw chump change at me because I know my worth. You can't give my sons chump change or this, that, and the third. Yes, I do believe that my son is good enough to come over here and be the starting quarterback. I believe in him that much. I know that he's better than anything that you got right now. I know that I'm the better coach that you probably ever had. I know that I'm gonna bring star power or whatever. You got to think about this. Think about what's being said. A college football game has more participants and viewership than an NFL game opener. What? Said it was like the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. Do you know how many endorsements and deals his sons got offered? Legacy. That's what this conversation is about. Legacy, family. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have children, promote your legacy wisely. If you are in the home, out the home, ladies and gentlemen, promote your legacy wisely. There is something phenomenal about you as a mom, you as a dad, and you guys should be working together. Not partially working together, not when I feel like working together, not, oh, well, if it come around to me working together, work together. Deion Sanders, to me, is showcasing this is what happens when everybody is on code. This is what happens when everybody understands the assignment. It says he's like that hood coach from the park. Yeah. It gives you a home feel. It gives you that rowdiness, that bravado, that swag, that, it's like, man, I get the best of both worlds, and you're relatable. The fact that I know that you've been where it is I'm trying to get to, yeah, I can listen to that. And then you got that kind of old school flavor and pop to it or whatever. And then again, it always helps that you have your children here saying, yo, that's my pops. That's my pops. It's exciting because what happens is, and this is for a lot of people, especially if you was raised it don't have to even be an urban community really, but your local coaches, whether it's high school, whatever it is, whatever the sport could be volleyball, swimming, wrestling. Your coaches become your mom and pop figures. I don't know if you guys can agree with that. Your coaches become those additional parental figures in a person's life. They can help shape the direction of a player. Whether you practice harder, whether you go to school, whether you respect your parent at home, whether you want to do good or not, they become that additional person. But again, Coach Prime, you got to understand, Coach Prime has now become that additional father figure to a lot of men who don't have father figures. Instead of them looking up to Little Boosie and Kevin Gates and all this other stuff, right? Now they're saying, well, what about Coach Prime? His sons ain't never been to jail. His sons don't have no babies out of wedlock. His son's getting educated. His sons ain't strung out on drugs. His sons ain't in no gang. What about Coach Prime? Just saying. And the thing about Coach Prime is those same people that we're talking about when we mention the Lil Boosies and the Kevin Gates or whatever, those are people that can look at a Coach Prime and have respect for him and support him. A LeBron James and support him and say, hey, he's the truth. Now, everybody's not going to be star athletes and go back and, coach football and, baseball, basketball, or whatever it is to be. I'm just saying that this is a moment that is bigger than football. It's a moment that is bigger than whatever college you're at. This is a moment that we can appreciate seeing a man and his son, especially an African American, because I really don't think personally that African American fathers are given much applause or appreciation. I don't really see that really broad. Like I hear more bad stuff about black men and being fathers than I hear good stuff. So when you see something good like this, it's a win. It's a win for fathers. It's a win for children without fathers or children with fathers. It's a win. So it's bigger than football. It's bigger than football. It definitely promotes, look at fatherhood being promoted on a national stage. Look at black men being promoted on a national stage. Look at family being promoted on a national stage. I think that's the conversation. So when his son said it's personal, like, that's my father. You're not going to disrespect my father. And when Deion said, I understand. Because we have a legacy. We have a bond. We have something bigger than football, which is family. And we don't put football before family. We don't put stats before family. We don't put standing ovations before family. And I think that's a level of understanding and importance that we need to definitely take from that and instill into what it is we have going on with our family members. It says he get it out when you're not a king. Right. To the black kings everywhere. Salute, salute, salute. Ryder Prophet says, I agree. A lot of the youth in the inner city, some have more connection with their coaches than their parents. Yeah, it's an outlet. It's an outlet. It's definitely an outlet. You know, I remember going to football practice or whatever, and Coach Polk, Coach Polk, he had the George Jefferson hair thing going on. Coach Polk was definitely a phenomenal guy. You know what I'm saying? Used to, just sit us down and just kind of give us talks about life, and it really used to be inspiring to be like, wow, because you don't have that understanding, especially if you don't have a male figure around. It's great. Salute. It's great to hear, someone say they believe in you. It's great to hear someone say that, it's okay to be a young black man in America, and you need that reassurance. And I think that, Deion Sanders promotes this situation like, if you believe in yourself enough, and you follow the right guidance, then you can achieve. And I think that this is huge for men. This is huge for the black community. This is huge for anyone that says, you know what, I didn't have a father in my life, but I can almost feel the love through the screen. So when all these people are cheering or whatever case be, you're not just cheering for football. You're cheering for a man legacy to not only lead and provide and protect, but to nourish his sons. That's football practice, like playing catch in the backyard. That's watching game tapes. That's having conversations about life. That's what you see. You see legacy before you. So it's great. Scoring touchdowns, great. Running up the stats, it's cool. You see a little showmanship, but you see, sons who admire their father, who emulate their father in their own way, but still are their own man. And I believe that's what's important, to be able to have your children understand the lesson, understand the assignment, but still become their own person, not try to make them you. And I think that's what's important about this Deion Sanders story. And it might be a movie. Hey, I'm be the first one to say it. It might be a movie, a primetime movie. You never know. Because it's not a lot of men that are able to be highlighted like that. So when you got the Stephen A. Smiths and the Camerons and this person, hey, we all going to the game. They're not there for the football stats. They're not there just, I'm sitting in the crowd eating popcorn and hot dogs. And no, they're there for Deion Sanders. They're there for a black man who has been knee deep in support of his sons and still going strong. And that to me is exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming through. Hopefully you guys catch the playback. Please hit that like, please share. I believe the conversation about Deion Sanders is bigger than football. I believe it definitely promotes family. And you tell me what you think down in the comments. Until next time, my daughter, peace. I appreciate y'all.